This is the Spirit and Wellness Show. News and information from a higher perspective. With your host, Harry Wilkinson. Hello again. Welcome to the Spirit and Wellness Show, take 2. I apologize for the technical difficulties. I am Harry Wilkinson, and this is the show where we take a look at the days and weeks events, happenings in the world, internationally, in politics, technology, sports even sometimes. Anything and everything that we interact with during our time, waking hours, during the week. And we take a look at these stories coming at us from various media and an ever-increasing abundance of new kinds of technology that allows us to have instantaneous information, whether or not we actually need it and whether or not it's actually accurate. But we take a look at all of those things that we are inundated with on a daily basis, and we take a step back and we look at them from the higher perspective. And as I was saying before, the technical difficulties knocked me out for a bit. I don't recall, in recent history at least, a time when getting that higher perspective was more important than certainly this week. If you've looked at the news, if you've heard the stories going on, but even if you haven't, recently, this is a tool that, the more inundated we become with these stories that are designed to titillate, that are designed to confuse sometimes, designed to irritate, but mostly just designed to get your attention at all costs, because that's what the media machine has to do in order to survive. It relies on ratings, it relies on eyes and ears on them. And so the more we are inundated with such things, the more important it is to have this tool, which I consider to be a wellness tool, to take that step back, to change the perspective of what is seemingly coming at us, and to take that higher perspective. And if you've listened to the program before, you know what I mean. You know the tool that I use, the techniques that I use. If you haven't, I can just briefly describe for you. Basically, the concept is a metaphysical one. That we exist beyond just our physical bodies in our everyday mundane existence, but that we exist at the highest level, connected as one. A term I use is divine mind, but if you want to just think of it as a giant connected supercomputer, the Internet of Things on a cosmic scale, if you will. At this level, we are creating everything. And none of what we experience in our daily mundane world, none of what our smaller selves, as opposed to the big self, the one that exists at the higher level, none of what is going on is the truth of who and what we are. They are illusions created. They are illusions created to give us certain experiences. Much like you would play a virtual reality game, or go see a movie, or read a book that gives you experiences that you might not ordinarily have. So, on a much bigger scale, We are doing this in our world. We are creating it. And once we remind ourselves of that, come into an awareness of that, when we find ourselves troubled by something out there or seemingly out there, whether it be a news story or the latest political wrangle or something closer to you, something happening in your life that is dismaying, through awareness, through mindfulness, we become fully aware of whatever anxiety, whatever discomfort, whatever you're feeling. We become fully aware of that. And then once we are fully aware of that, we change the perspective. We realize that this is an amazing, mind-bogglingly complex and detailed illusion. A trick, if you will. But I don't want to make light of it, because it's an amazing creation, created and designed to feel very real. Because what would be the point if you didn't feel it very succinctly? But once you have that, here's the thing. You can recognize the truth of it. Recognize that it is a creation, and not just any creation. It's a creation you have made. And you can take your energy from it just as easily as you gave energy to it to create it. As we know from quantum physics, what you focus on, what you pay attention to, what you give energy to, collapses a wave of potentiality into something that seems to be concrete. But once you take that energy away, it changes. And that's all you have to do. You don't have to have a goal of changing something. In fact, that will work against you. You go above and beyond negative or positive, bad or good, and you realize it for what it is. You even honor it for its complexity, recognizing that it's something that you've created for a reason, and that reason is your own spiritual growth and a reconnection to who and what you truly are. And then when you realize that, you can take the energy from it without judgment, recognizing that it is something that is a tool helping you become more of who you really are. And that's an empowering way to deal with these things. It's a wise way of dealing with these things. And it's a truthful way of dealing with these things. So I try to assist in that by, taking a look at some of the things that people are talking about, and coming at them with a different kind of, I won't say spin, because it's really not a spin, but coming at them from a different perspective to help perhaps lessen the angst, for lack of a better word, that some of the situations are designed to provoke, and to just give another way of looking at it that can be helpful and less taxing, less stress-inducing, less toxic. And so that's what I try to do on this show on a weekly basis whenever I can. And recently we've been talking about, well, since the beginning of the year, the new year, we've been talking about the future. Because this is a time when we, well, two things. We've been talking about predictions, what's coming up in 2019, which we've covered the past 2 weeks, and beyond 2019, which we began to talk about last week, and hopefully we'll have a chance to continue on with that. And we've also been talking about another thing that is pretty popular around this time of year, resolutions. Resolutions for changing things, and in particular, since this is a wellness-oriented show, many people make a concerted resolution to improve their wellness, whether it be through diet changes, whether it be through more of an exercise routine, maybe bringing in a meditation practice or a yoga practice into your life, whatever it is that you feel will help you in increasing your wellness. That's what we've been focusing on. So today, as we generally do, I will give you some tips on things you might think about doing for your wellness. We'll talk about things that you can do to change maybe some bad habits you might have, or habits you're tired of and want to get rid of. So we'll get into those, and we'll also continue our discussion about the future and beyond. I called this particular show We Have a Dream, because of course this is the weekend of Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday celebration, and the national day off that many people have at this time. Martin Luther King's birthday as a holiday, and I'm old enough to remember when it wasn't, and I'm old enough to remember the fight to get Congress to declare it a national holiday. It was a struggle that took almost as long as the civil rights movement itself, and should have been done much sooner, but it finally did get done in the 80s. So it hasn't been a national holiday for very long. Previous to that, it was still a holiday. It's just that it wasn't given the official blessing as such, but it's always been a day of reflection. A day of reflection and thinking about how we can make the world a better place. And this, I think, ties in really well to what we've been talking about as far as our thoughts about the future, and maybe some resolutions for the future. One of the things that I do is I teach young children, and when it comes to Martin Luther King's birthday, trying to explain to children what it means, and these are young children, these are preschool age and pre-kindergarten age and kindergarten age. And the fight that Dr. King certainly led, the fight for racial justice, is a concept that's difficult to explain to a preschooler. They can understand ideas of unfairness, concepts of unfairness, but they really don't understand things like race